All right, welcome back into the Right Now studio. Sorry for the little bit of a delay there. It's the Friday brain, Jack.
That is TGIF.
I'm buffering right now. I'm
here tomorrow, so this is.
I know.
I have the. It feels like a Thursday.
At least, well, at
the
least
worst
it's
kinds
like,
of Fridays, the ones that don't feel like it.
At least it's the Padres, though, right? You'll be working on the game.
Yes, exactly. Doing some work here behind the scenes for the Padres baseball. Super excited for that. I get to sleep in regardless.
Yeah.
You know, my shift is
Much
later in the day,
different.
so it kind of feels like it anyway. So you know what? I don't have a lot to complain about.
That's good. All right, so we want to jump into our next topic here. We're going to be having our Jenny Huh joining us here via video call in just a little moment, but there was a major Supreme Court ruling on voting rights. It is now having a direct impact here in California as the legal battle over the state's congressional maps picks up new momentum. Opponents of Prop 50 say the decision could strengthen their case as the fight over how districts are drawn heads back to court. News 8's political reporter Jenny Huh has been following the story and breaks down what it means.
Back in January, the Supreme Court denied an emergency request by California Republicans to halt the implementation of Prop 50 maps. That request was denied, though the larger case on the constitutionality of the maps is still ongoing. Today, these opponents tell me they have new momentum.
What the Supreme Court has actually done emboldens our case.
Republican Assemblymember David Tongipaw has emerged as a leading voice in the No on Prop 50 movement and a lawsuit challenging the temporary redrawing of California's congressional maps. These new maps could benefit Democrats by giving them a 5-seat advantage.
You can't just say, well, that area is dominated by Latinos, I'm going to make a Latino district. You can't just say that that area is dominated by black people, I'm going to make a black district.
That's the argument, that the redrawn maps unconstitutionally use race to advance political interests favoring Hispanic and Latino voters in gerrymandering. Though California Democrats have argued and the courts have upheld, it was partisan redistricting, a political counter to Texas's mid-decade redistricting to give Republicans 5 more seats.
They've been unsuccessful to this point, and I expect them to continue to be unsuccessful into the future.
But with the Supreme Court ruling 6-3 to narrow how Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act can be applied even in cases meant to help minority voters, opponents of Prop 50 believe the justices would have to rule against Prop 50 should it be proved race played a key factor in drawing the maps.
The Supreme Court made California's maps even more suspect because it said you can't draw lines based on race, and all the things the court described are exactly what California did.
Christian Adams is president of the conservative, election integrity-focused Public Interest Legal Foundation. His Prop 50 lawsuit has been consolidated with that of Tongipaw and the California Republican Party.
This ruling could provide a little oomph to the proponents of that litigation.
Texas only worked in politics. California used race to justify it because the majority party in this state can't stop talking about race.
They might think that it gives them some level of additional support. The promise of Proposition 50 is something that we have to fulfill in November.
California Democratic Party Chair Rusty Hicks emphasizing Democrats will need to win big in the midterms in light of what they warn could be the broader implications of the ruling. Fewer Democratic districts with majority-minority voters, so a benefit to Republicans, they say.
A number of states around the country that adopt new maps that adversely impact or in fact take away some districts that have a majority-minority voters.
And the national picture here, several states are also moving forward with redistricting ahead of the midterms. Here in California, Governor Gavin Newsom is criticizing Florida's approach after lawmakers approved maps backed by Ron DeSantis that supporters say benefit Republicans. Newsom writing on X in part, quote, "No input, no vote of the people. Democracy is dying under Ron DeSantis." Jenny Huh, News 8.
All right, so as we come back in here, you will see that Jenny Huh, who you just heard from there, now joins us via video call. So, Jenny, I know that there's still a lot that needs to happen. There is still a lot that could happen, but what do you have your eyes and ears on now as we move forward here with some potentially new life here to opponents of Prop 50?
Good morning. Happy Friday. Good to be here again. I want to be transparent. I did ask Assemblymember Tongipaw and the Republicans about the timing of all of this, and they told me, quite frankly, as of now, we're still in the early stages, not quite sure where the lawsuit heads from now. But as you both heard, in the story, there is this newfound momentum that Republicans feel. So again, a lot needs to happen, but I think that momentum is something that will be interesting. Will anything happen to influence the 2026 midterm? Likely not, and honestly, hopefully not, because all of these candidates in the race, they're already candidates in the redrawn district. So it would be quite a chaotic mess
Yeah.
should the Prop 50 maps somehow change ahead of 26. So I think the implication is for 2028 and beyond.
I just got my sample ballot yesterday.
Yeah.
So
I was just going to say.
It's a little late, yeah.
Right, but we did see, like, for instance, in Louisiana, they went ahead and just suspended their primary so that they could redraw their map. So they're technically, and obviously that was a direct result of the Supreme Court case. So it was likely legally prudent for them to go ahead and do that. But that was something that I did not think was possible. But that's a challenge that Louisiana is taking on. So I know that it's, again, a lot of wait and see right now, but I think that that's pretty prudent what you just pointed out, that this is likely going to be 2028 and beyond. Jack, you had something to say? Sorry.
I'm sorry, Jenny.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, that's the thing about the slight delay when you're doing live.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets complicated, so I apologize. But we'll do a little bit of a segue
good.
because we know that there's a lot of legal unknowns right now. But we wanted to get your thoughts about that. There's something else we want to get your thoughts on, and of course, it's what we've talked about a lot with you, is the governor's race. We talked about a debate last week. We're going to talk about a debate this week. We're going to talk about a debate next week as well. So stay tuned for that. Spoiler alert, but we have 3 in 3 weeks, which in any campaign in any race I've ever seen in my life, this is unprecedented. So we're getting multiple opportunities here to see all these candidates, right?
Yeah, and the big thing about I think it was Tuesday. It's been such a long week. The Tuesday debate this week was that it was all 8 leading candidates, whereas the first one that we saw about a week ago, that was just with 6 leading candidates. So this time around, Antonio Villaraigosa and Tony Thurmond, both Democrats, though lower polling, they were able to participate. So I think the big thing for voters was seeing all 8 candidates really interact in the public spotlight in real time for the first time. We anticipated a lot of back and forth, a lot of attacks, and a lot of interruptions, and surely we saw so much of that. But at the end of the day, did we really get to hone in on people's policies, right? And the concrete actions they're hoping for California? I think, again, that's a big disappointment. It's kind of like, what are voters really supposed to take away, right? Other than candidates attacking each other.
And Jenny, that was going to be my leading question there for you, was that obviously this is a result of the jungle primary. We are going to have Democrats and Republicans on stage. And it's not just a Democrat versus a Republican in this debate, but also the Democrats versus each other. To an extent, maybe not this time around, but normally you might see the Republicans try to sort of battle it out. Though for these 2 Republicans, they are likely trying to get both on the ballot come the general. But are you hearing from organizers or anyone in politics that there are simply just too many people on the stage when we're talking about 8 candidates? Like, are voters really being served the best messages and the best, I don't want to say product, because I do think the moderators did the absolute best that they could when you have 8 candidates on stage, but it almost just seems like information and attack overload.
Yeah, that's a very fair question. And I think that's exactly the big concern a lot of people up here in Sacramento are having as well. It's simply too much. And I think, honestly, what we see on the debate stage, right, the fact that it's too much information overload, and also that there's no clear debate winner. That's what we're seeing in the overall race as well. No clear front runner, no clear leading candidate, no clear star, right? And again, candidate overload. So it's just, it's a lot for voters. And again, the big question is, with these debates and the formats and them having to fit in so many candidates, just that's kind of the reality that we are stuck with, that it's ultimately a big responsibility at the end of the day for voters to educate themselves. And I want to reiterate, Eric Swalwell and Betty Yee, Democrats who have now suspended their campaign, their names are still on that primary ballot. So that's another added layer of confusion that voters are going to have to sort through.
Joining dozens of others who aren't even on the debate stage, which could only further confuse those who are not
61.
really plugged in. 61 names here on this ballot. Jenny, another question that I had for you was really focusing on the Republicans. Chad Bianco has, again, as he continues to get more interviews, as he continues to get more spotlight, has seemingly carved out the lane of taking on that antagonistic attack, both against candidates, but also against journalists who are asking fair questions. Do you think that someone like Steve Hilton in a state like California may privately be like, hey, maybe let's like, do you think it's beneficial to Steve Hilton? Because again, probably the best chance for a Republican to win the general is for both Republicans to save that battle for another day. Do you almost think that it's not beneficial for Chad Bianco to take on this antagonistic sort of approach here? Because it seemingly has ratcheted up here in the past couple of days.
Yeah.
There was an interview that was done here with another local TV station with Chad Bianco where, again, Sheriff Bianco was very antagonistic, much more than we maybe saw early on in this campaign.
And I saw that interview as well, and my newsroom was actually just talking about it. I don't think it's an advantage to Chad Bianco, especially in California. Look, we're talking with Steve Hilton. Simply the endorsement of President Trump, many Republicans themselves will argue that would not be an advantage to Steve Hilton because Trump is, his favorability rating as polls show is so low in California. So to have a candidate running for governor that's now echoing some of those MAGA talking points, I don't think that's necessarily attractive to California Republicans either. I think really what a candidate like Chad Bianco needs to remember is, sure, maybe Trump's rhetoric is working at the national level, and Governor Gavin Newsom's rhetoric of also kind of holding up a mirror to President Trump, right? That's working for him because it's a Democratic supermajority in the Golden State. But for a Republican to mimic kind of what Newsom and Trump are doing to appeal to their bases, I don't think it appears to the average California voter, especially when in a primary election, right? You're trying to be one of the top two vote getters. So no, at the end of the day, I don't think the sudden kind of really antagonistic rhetoric that Chad Bianco seems to have taken on, especially after that Tuesday debate, I don't think it's necessarily going to be a success story per se.
Yeah, and I think both of you, encapsulated that concept perfectly. It works on the national level. Maybe it doesn't work because one of my initial takeaways from Steve Hilton during that debate was that moment when Becerra called Trump his daddy. Yeah. And he seemingly
he sidestepped that like a pro.
He sidestepped it, and it seemed to me like one of the only Republican candidates of any office that is trying to downplay a Trump endorsement. And I think he did
the fact that he has it.
And I think he did an effective job, and he's obviously trying to come off as there was a counterweight to some of the stuff that we saw from Bianco. So I know you have I know you probably have a busy day today, so we want to make sure you have time. So I want to ask you one more question. We have one more debate that is on the books. That is May 5th. That is next week. That is going to be a CNN interview. We're seeing a national network cover a gubernatorial debate, which you don't see that all too often. All of the candidates from this week's debate are invited, with the exception of Tony Thurmond. The question is still going to be, how do you break out in a crowded field? What do you think one of these leaders, Hilton, Bianco, Becerra, Steyer, Porter, what do you think they need to do here? Because we haven't seen it in these past two, let alone the other ones before that. What do you think that you need to see some of these contenders do here?
I'm going to be really honest, and this may not be the answer we're hoping for, but I don't know if there's anything these already leading candidates can do to stand out even more. I mean, when I talk to politicos ahead of these debates, what they tell me is, honestly, as a leader, if you're a leader in the race like a Becerra, like a Steyer, right, like a Hilton on the Republican side, you play it safe. Right? These debates are the perfect kind of live TV moments to make a mistake or be attacked and not be able to defend yourself. That's what you want to prevent. You don't want any slip-ups. You want to kind of ride the momentum and just answer your questions well and still remain a liked, favorable candidate. Now, here's where you kind of look and listen for the attacks on stage, right? It's typically going to be the lower polling candidates who need that breakthrough moment to launch an attack on someone. I think notably in this Tuesday debate, we saw a lot of attacks towards Steyer and Becerra, because they are the leading Democrats, and especially with Becerra, we have been seeing more momentum since Eric Swalwell dropped out. So again, to quickly wrap, I think it's a little late. I think time is these candidates' biggest enemy, because as we've been talking about for months now, it's such a crowded field. But I will say for Republicans, I think it's still a good chance for Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco to somehow differentiate themselves. We have Steve Hilton as a character. We have Chad Bianco as a character. One of the political analysts described the differences as Yosemite Sam versus the British guy, right? So other than this
Right, yeah.
personality and
Yeah.
literal visual difference, we're not really seeing a huge policy difference for the two.
Yeah.
I think I'm looking forward to see how the Republicans differentiate themselves, if at all.
I mean, even down to the suit. One of the things that I was drawn by was the fact that, you know, you saw the shirt underneath Bianco's jacket, which was his Riverside County Sheriff polo,
Yeah.
almost dressing down, whereas Hilton didn't have the tie, but, you know, had the suit, the dress shirt again. And I think that those are little things that maybe they are doing on intentionally. On a debate stage, everything is intentional.
When it comes
so.
to nicknames, you could find something a little more
Yosemite
creative than the
Sam.
British guy.
The
Come
British
on.
guy, but I did like Yosemite Sam.
Elmer
I did.
Fudd is right there. It's
Oh,
a Looney Tunes reference.
Oh,
I don't
man.
know.
All right. Well, Jenny, thank you so much for joining us here on this Friday. We hope you have a good weekend and thank you so much for helping us break down everything that's been going on in the world of politics here in California.